I'm Jeff Hunty's Bill Thorpe. It's Thursday.
Deep breath. Almost Friday.
Bill's fired up on this one, this issue today. We're discussing the Minnesota shooting, 37-year-old woman from Colorado. Was it justified? Do you think the officer deserves to be prosecuted? Should the ICE raids stop in Minnesota? That's what law enforcement, or that's what political leaders in Minnesota are calling for. I think it was a justified shooting. I think the cop was hit by this car. I think this woman should have never been there. She was out being an agitator, disrupting law enforcement operations. She put herself right in that situation. I can't think of a dumber thing to do than people carrying guns around trying to arrest bad guys, and you're throwing yourself in the middle of them. And then you get your car and you hit one of them. I'm sorry she died, but I think it was justified, and I don't think the cops should be imprisoned as a result of it. So let's get to the phone lines. Where am I wrong? Text in 720-819-5115 or call 303-696-1971. Let's go to Scott in Littleton. Good morning, Scott. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. WWF radio in the morning. I love it.
Yeah, it's just a big question of which one of us can do the run-in and do the chair shot. It's really a question, my friend.
First off, I'm not getting paid, but I'm glad you have that Claremont advertising. Again, what a fantastic place. And out in Burlington or wherever the heck it is. Second of all, Jeff, I don't know how you do it. I went through raising a male through junior high and dealing with a liberal-minded Sherlock Holmes this morning. I got to give you credit. It doesn't matter whether the
he does deserve credit for putting up with me. He really does. He shows up each and every day, and I'm surprised.
I know.
Liberal-minded Sherlock Holmes. That's a good description.
That's a good description.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if the agent was in front of the car. Actually, originally, look at it again, the car was going backwards for a while. And it doesn't matter how fast the car is or how slow the car was and how fast the agent was or people are because it was snowing. None of that has anything to do with it. But I'll tell you this. The number one thing is, and I went through this somewhat same experience where I was trying to get into my neighborhood during the construction over on C470. And I went out to get some, run my dog at a park and took my truck out. Dog in the truck. We went and ran. We went and got some Dairy Queen, a pup cup. Coming home, I live in a neighborhood, 55 and over, 400 residents, and they had blocked it off. Kramer with a K, the worst construction company on the planet. No reason, but the deputy from Douglas County was out there in his car, and he flagged me down the road. I went around in a big mile circle, came back, tried to look again, and sure enough, there were cones right in front of the only in and out. And I went and parked right in front. I opened my door. I was going to go move the cone because no one was there other than this deputy parked about 30 yards away. And he came running out of his car, and he said, "Get your ass back in your car." And I did. And I rolled down my window, and he said, "You don't get out when I'm approaching you." I'm like, I'm sorry. I got melted ice cream. I got a pissed off dog, wife, and you shouldn't block this off anyway. An ambulance comes in here every 4 hours because someone's sick, dying, or whatever. And he didn't like my humor, and he said, "I want your license. I want your registration and your proof of insurance." And he grabbed all this stuff, and he went back to his car, and then he came back out, and he said, "I'm not blocking this off, but the construction company is." And
now, Scott, get me to the end of this. Now, what happens here? Talk to me about, are you complying to, your interaction with the officer?
He went and talked to 5 guys standing around from the construction company doing nothing. He said, "We'll open it up for you." They didn't, so I ran over the cones and went home. and I parked, and I was on the phone with his supervisor by the time I got in the house. And the supervisor came out and he reviewed the video of his deputy, and he apologized and all this and that. The bottom line is, when a deputy or a law enforcement person pulls you over, you listen to him. And one of the things I looked at was his gun. And the other thing is, usually I have my dog in a kennel on the back of my truck, but it was pretty empty that night, so I had him behind the seat. And when he's got this deputy, hears this deputy yelling at me, he's getting a little freaked, and I'm like, I don't want to,
now, Scott, I want to stop you there just for a second, because I want to talk. I understand the idea, and I agree the idea that when the officer tells you to do something, you do it.
Here's the bottom line.
Okay,
bottom line, because I want to hear your next guest, because I love him, Barney. The bottom line is, Jason Crow and Kyle Clark, Suco Boy, came out with about the same statement at the same time, which is pretty similar to yours. And what's amazing, Billy, is that you've got children. And the number one thing I get out of you three and the rest of the people and the Democrats in this country right now is, even though you make all these laws, you are the ones that don't care about having respect anymore. You're the ones who say it's okay to go around. It doesn't matter. It's all in the situation. You're trying to evaluate a situation in seconds, and we've had other law enforcement on this morning talking about how it takes seconds to make these decisions. And you know what? It does. It takes just seconds to escalate something. And
yes.
The bottom line is, when you're a citizen, you sit in your damn truck. I would have loved to run this bastard over, to be honest with you.
Scott, here's the idea, though. When you didn't, Scott, hang on a sec.
Scott, you got children.
Hang on a sec, Scott. Scott, hang on a sec.
People like
the
you
question,
that have
Scott,
children,
excuse me,
have the same mentality.
I understand.
Like Jason Crow, who was a soldier.
I disagree with what you're saying.
And you don't care about having respect anymore for law enforcement. I'm going to tell you people, if you don't want to get killed, you don't want your dog to get killed, when someone in law enforcement tells you to do something, you do it.
When the officer told you to get back in the car and says, you listen to me, should the officer have shot you? Okay, Scott, he hung up. The question is, in that situation, should the officer, instead of confronting Scott, etc., should have shot him? Because if the issue is you have to comply, and that's the issue here in Minnesota, you have to comply, or the justification that I'm hearing from the callers and the text messages this morning, and help me get through this. I need your help. Help me get through this and understand this. The justification that I am hearing from the calls and the text messages is, well, she didn't comply, so what do you expect? So in that situation,
it wasn't just that she didn't comply, it's that she took her car and hit a cop or an ICE agent with it.
Okay. But what was the intent? That's not the intent. She's backing up and she's trying to leave. They had told her to leave. They need to allow her to leave. If you tell her to leave, you need to give them an opportunity to leave. You don't stand in front of the car. He put himself in front of the car that a cop this morning told us is a dangerous instrument. That officer put himself in front of a dangerous instrument at a position in which he could not determine the trajectory of the car. Those are two mistakes in a row that put him in the wrong situation at the wrong time, and his solution to that was to pull the trigger. That is a lapse in judgment that ended someone's life.
Give us a call. Join the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Campos Law text line, 720-819-5115. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment. Good Thursday morning, 35 and cloudy in Denver as you listen to Jeff and Billy, expecting a high of 43 today. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, paid protests broke out in several cities across the country Wednesday, including here in Denver and up and down down the Front Range, and more expected today after the ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis. An agent shot and killed a 37-year-old woman who's actually from Colorado Springs in her vehicle because she was weaponizing it, refusing to listen to orders and creating chaos. Renee Good attempted to run over an ICE agent and found out what could happen. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem knows what happened.
During a press conference, Noem said the incident was preventable, that the agent who shot and killed the woman has been treated at a hospital and released.
The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues.
Noem added that the ICE agent had been previously involved in a separate incident in which he was rammed and dragged by a vehicle last year. DHS says the woman was protesting ICE when she allegedly drove her car into federal agents. But the Democratic mayor of Minneapolis disputes that, saying the woman was fleeing the scene. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz added the state will make sure the investigation into the incident is full and fair. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the Somali corruptocrat who married her brother, says the shooting was unconscionable and reprehensible. She called it state violence, not law enforcement. Never let a crisis go to waste. She knows that. A manhunt is underway for the person or persons who killed 2 people and injured 6 others outside a church in Utah.
I cannot confirm for sure at this time whether it's one shooter or multiple, but we are looking into that.
Police say a funeral was taking place at an LDS church in Salt Lake City Wednesday when an altercation broke out in the parking lot and shots were fired at a group of people. The Senate is set to vote today on a resolution that would block DJT from taking further action in Venezuela without congressional approval. The bipartisan War Powers resolution is sponsored by Minority Leader Chucky Schumer and Tim Kaine, California Democrat Adam Shifty Schiff, and Kentucky Republican Rand Paul. The measure only needs a simple majority to pass. Venezuelan officials say 100 people were killed in the raid that captured Nicolas Maduro. DJT seeking to recover millions from Georgia's election interference case. He filed a motion in court Wednesday to gain back more than $6 million in legal fees. The administration is preparing to meet with officials in Denmark about acquiring Greenland. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Wednesday that he'll meet with Danish officials next week to discuss the situation. Last night, the Pentagon's budget was increased by $500 billion. Tucker Carlson says that means a good possibility of world war in the future.
So how do you position yourself for that? Well, you look at a map and you ask the most basic questions. What areas do I want to control? Where are the trade routes? Who's got the resources? Who do I share a language with? Who do I share a common history with? Who do I share a civilization with? And you proceed on that basis, and you try and shore up your team, the allies, against the other team, the Axis or whatever. But you think soberly about how the world is going to cleave once this begins. And if you were to do that for about, 25 or 30 seconds, you would arrive at the most obvious conclusion of all, which is the United States has to have a relationship with Russia in order to survive anything like that. And the reason is really simple: scale and resources.
And you can't allow Russia to team up with China. Let's pray that war does not break out. Nuggets, big win over the Celtics last night. Another win without Jokic, 114-110. Senators at the Avs tonight at 7 o'clock in Lodo. Broncos continue preparation for their first-round playoff game at home in about 11 days. It'll be the Jags or the Bills. College football playoffs continue tonight. Number 6, Ole Miss, who were basically kicked to the curb by their head coach, Lane Kiffin, who took the LSU job. A lot of people rooting for Ole Miss. They take on number 10, Miami, playing extremely well right now. 34 in Parker, 33 in Westminster, 35 in Denver. You're waking up with Jeff and Billy on a Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Some changes with the weather finally will arrive tonight late and into Thursday and Friday, but today another mild day, highs 50s to near 60 degrees, a mix of high clouds and sun. Cloudy tonight, lows upper 20s, turning colder tomorrow. Highs near 40, then temperatures falling. There will be developing snow showers during the day Thursday. Could see a brief period of snow. Thursday night into Friday morning, much colder. Could see some slick roads and highways late Thursday through Friday. Low 20s Thursday night, highs Friday, only 30s. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're discussing the shooting, the ICE shooting that took place in Minnesota yesterday. The 37-year-old woman from Colorado. Was it a justified shooting? Was she using her car as a weapon? Was she just trying to get away? And this ICE officer committed murder. Steve Woodrow on X saying, fascism is here. We ignored it at our own peril. It was a nonviolent, peaceful resistance is needed now more than ever. Text messages into the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Jeff and Bill. This is Julie in Denver. I lay this whole tragic situation at the feet of Walz and Frey and their insane sanctuary policies. Instead of working with federal law enforcement by allowing them to serve judge-signed federal warrants on the criminals in the state, they let criminals out in public. They let the criminal out in public, allowing them to walk free. Then demonize federal officers for doing their job, all while stoking the flames of their useful idiots. It's sad. It's evil. It is wrong. In the end, the blood is on the hands of the state leaders. Wow. Strong words from Julie. Let's go to the phone lines. Barney in Denver. Good morning, Barney. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Morning, Jeff. Morning, Bill. And Jeff, just hang on a minute. I'm going to give Bill some honesty, but then I expect him to listen to me afterwards.
Okay.
I am good. And first off, law enforcement does not need to call here and say that this was justified in the sense that, oh, he played by the rules. So, Billy, you are correct. In my opinion, if I were that cop, I don't think I would have used deadly force on that woman. But hang on a minute, Billy. Yes, it probably wasn't justified. Yes, I think that this cop, he had all the rules he could go by, and he will get away with this. He has qualified immunity. You and I could not do that. The guy that called up with a concealed carry could not shoot that woman. But the fact is, and I'll go back to, I think in Denver it was Jeffrey Truex around the time that he got, like, the Denver cop shot at his car 67 times. They only hit him 6 times. But right before that or thereafter, I can't remember what it is, Supreme Court had a case, and the Supreme Court said, yes, law enforcement can shoot at a car if they deem it to be a deadly weapon. Having said that, though, look, the guy that called up, he is absolutely right. Scott, I think. I have the biggest mouth. There is nobody that has a bigger mouth than me. Nobody has gotten in more trouble with my mouth like I have. But by God, when it comes to a cop, you keep your mouth shut. Yes, I don't want my dog shot. Yes, I don't want shot in the head with my 2.5-year-old granddaughter in my car. I am going to go to a different level of constraint. Now, that guy is right. When you've got a 165-pound twit of a cop coming at you with a gun and a badge, guess what? He has all the rules, and you're screwed. But the bottom line is, Billy, you would have to admit, this has been brewing. I see these videos of these people getting in these cops' face, and just why somebody has not been killed till now is beyond me.
Oh, Barney, I agree with you on that. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, I was talking off air to both Adam, who runs our video, and Mark Crowley, who's the IT genius behind the show, that we're talking to beforehand, that I said personally, I have been surprised that there hasn't been more violence from the protesters. I was talking about how I have been shocked at how non-violent they have been. Now, I want to make this very clear for the Jeff and Bill show. I'm not calling the protesters non-violent. I'm saying I was expecting to see more violence and haven't seen it. That personally has been surprising.
Okay, but just a minute, Billy.
Yeah.
The fact that these people are emboldened with their cars and they're screaming at look at in 1980, maybe it was 81. I picked a fight with a pack of wolves that came out of District 4. Denver cops. By God, I learned my lesson, buddy. And I got roughed up a little bit, but I learned my lesson. There comes a point where you have got to shut your mouth. That's all there is to it. And the fact that these protesters, see, in the old days, we could sing these stupid John Lennon songs and stand on the sidewalk with our protest signs and burn a bra or burn a draft card, whatever. But that's not enough for these people. They want satisfaction. So they're emboldened, I guess, to get in these cops' face. I just think you're really playing with fire because we see the videos now. We used to say, oh, there were only a few bad cops. I got news for you, and I do respect cops, Jeff. I really do. But we do know that number is a lot higher than just a few really bad cops that are going to make a bad call. But like I said, the cop was justified. Supreme Court says he's justified. He can shoot at that car. He can call it a deadly weapon. But what's funny is the caller they called as a concealed carry, your level of constraint that you have to have doesn't even come close to a cop. A cop can punch your ticket and has very little. They have very little rules.
Now, Barney. Now, what I want to outline there is part of what I'm talking about in this situation. That the levels of judgment and what we expect in Minnesota during this confrontation are different for the person driving the car versus the ICE agents. Just like you outlined, someone that has a concealed carry permit is held to a different level of firearm safety and how they handle a firearm, just like a police officer is held to a different level of judgment than the average person running around the street. The same thing happens when you have an individual that has a black belt that gets involved in an assault case. Because they have that extra set of skills and training, they're held to a different standard. And that's what I'm coming to with this, in this ICE case. The ICE officer should be held to a different standard because he took the badge.
They're not going to be held to a different standard. They have qualified immunity. They can get away with the law. And I don't mean that as disrespectful, but most cops know if you've got a pack of cops, like say at District 4, those guys that work at District 4, they know those couple of bad apples that have got a hair trigger and they won't admit it, but there are cops out there that shouldn't be cops. But let me say this, though, Billy.
Yeah.
This woman, she had a job to raise her kids. I'm sorry. You have no business being a protester when you have kids. No way. It's just wrong. You raise your family. That's your kids. That's the most important job you have. And you're an idiot to be out there protesting. You don't deserve to die, Billy, but God dang it, I'm with the guy, Scott. Keep your mouth shut when it comes to the cops. Even if you think that you can whoop that cop's butt, it's irrelevant. Keep your mouth shut. Do what they tell you. May not be right, may suck, but by God, this has been brewing. This has been brewing for a long time. I wish it wouldn't have been a woman that died, but you know what? And Jeff, the only guy that I saw that looked like he was in danger was I saw a video of a guy that was on the right side of the car, and he jumped to the right, and it almost looked like she had hit him. But the fact is, you know what? When it comes to a cop, I don't care how stupid the order is. I don't care how dumb you think the cop is. You better keep your mouth shut because guess what? He can punch your ticket if he wants to with very little cause. And I know cops that are 100% badass and would never think this way. But there are cops out there that will admit that there are some guys out there have no business with the badge and a gun.
Barney, Denver, appreciate the call.
Barney.
Always a lot of fun to have you on. Thank you, Barney. That's Barney from Denver. Jump in. His line's open quickly. 303-696-1971. Look, from city streets to mountain trails, your gear should go wherever life takes you. That's why at Modern Rugged Leather, Every bag is handcrafted from premium, responsibly sourced leather, designed to look sharp, last long, and tell a story of its own. Guys, this is the nicest bag I've ever had. This thing is amazing. I was a mountain guide. I spent a lot of time. I know good bags. This is the best modern, rugged leather. Each stitch, buckle, and strap reflects timeless craftsmanship and is backed by a lifetime warranty because quality shouldn't quit when the adventure begins. So whether it's the boardroom or the back roads, modern, rugged leather helps you carry confidence every step of the way. Modern, rugged leather, modern style, timeless durability, backed for life. Life takes you places. Make sure your gear keeps up. Shop the full collection. Find yours today at modernrugged.com. That's modernrugged.com. All right, we'll continue. Ben, you'll be up next. We'll get to Joe, then Ben, or Ben, then Joe. You guys will be up next. Stick around. I know you've been waiting. Jump in if you want to be a part of the conversation. If all you can do is text, here's the text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines jam-packed. Jump in as soon as you possibly can. We want to hear from you. This is Denver's left, right, center debate show. We're discussing the ICE shooting that took place in Minnesota yesterday. A justified, righteous action by an officer hit by a car, or the murder of an innocent woman just trying to flee the scene. What's your read on this? Let's go to the phone lines. Joe in Arvada. Good morning, Joe. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Jeff, Billy. Happy New Year. Let's all breathe. I want to give something, maybe outside of this box we're in. If you making the perfect breakfast and you poaching your eggs, they still cook for a minute after you take them out of the water. Just a little something for your listeners.
Okay, we got to do this just for a second here, Joe. I got to tell you now, Jeff and I have not talked about this off air, but I went down a rabbit hole of trying to cook the perfect scrambled eggs over the course of the Christmas holiday. And you are right about the preparation, and they've got to rest afterwards. You don't cook them all the way there. You let them rest for about a minute or so afterwards. Here's a tip that you need to try next time, Joe, okay? Take the eggs, and again, when you're doing scrambled, you can do it with poached, but it works really well scrambled. Add salt in when you're whisking all the eggs together, and then let them sit for about 7 to 8 minutes. I was taught this on a video by a person that is really good at techniques, but also at the chemistry inside of cooking, and it allows the proteins to relax, and you'll end up with fluffier eggs, especially if you add some moisture in as well. So you a little bit of water, a little bit of milk.
Good.
So try that. Just let them put in a little bit of salt, but let it sit for about 7 to 8 minutes to let the salt interact with the egg proteins. Okay, now it's your turn, my friend.
I take it. No, that's great, because I don't eat scrambled very often, and when I do, they're not perfect. So now I know the key.
Oh, good. Okay.
I love it. So on this note, let's look at history. I feel like Peter. History doesn't repeat itself. It rhymes. It rhymes with itself. Look at the playoffs. You got Pittsburgh, you got Denver, you got New England, Green Bay, Chicago Bears. Do you feel like you just walked back into the 80s? It's awesome. The point is that history rhymes. This thing that happened is horrid. It's terrible. But you know what it reminds me of? It's the counterpart of the death of Ashley Babbitt. If you look at what happened, it is so similar. You have somebody at a protest. She breaks through a window, sticks her head in, bam. She shouldn't have been killed. I do believe the officer, should be culpable. And that guy, by the way, I'm sure you guys are all following that, has been found guilty of or not found guilty. He's suspected of some other issues, but that's outside of it. The point is Ashley Babbitt was where she shouldn't have been at the wrong time. And it is very much like what happened here. The cop, he never faced really any systemic, prosecution. Now, I think they did evaluate the whole system, and they just basically declared him innocent. There really wasn't a court hearing, I don't think. I don't think the guy ever went to court. But I felt horrible for Ashley Babbitt. She shouldn't have died. I think she was an innocent woman that got taken in a violent, yes, it was a violent uprising, but she was just a small fragment of group of people that put her head in the wrong place at the wrong time. This woman that drove this car, you have to look at the context. All of these people had attacked ICE agents with a car. You don't, just think about it. You got 1,000 or 100 ICE agents in an area. You're going to get in your car, drive to the event, and then get in front of officers? Come on now. You're begging for problems.
Yeah,
we all know it.
Doesn't mean, though, that she should have been shot. And I see I appreciate the analogy between Ashley Babbitt and this one, although I think the aggression that was happening behind Ashley is different than the aggression that is happening around this shooting. What I'm saying is when those were barricaded doors in the Ashley Babbitt situation, the doors were barricaded. You had members of Congress behind those doors, and you had people that were breaking windows and trying to get through the barricade. And if this was a situation...
Dude, there were hundreds of ICE agents that she brought her car into.
The thing. I understand,
that's a barricade.
Here's the idea, though. I know, but if she was at the forefront of a large group of people or a large group of cars that were advancing
she was.
No, she wasn't.
Yes, she was.
No, not at that situation, in that scenario.
What do you think all these cars that were driving around towards the barricade were doing? What do you think they were doing, Billy? Just sightseeing?
No, there were protests there, but it wasn't a large group of angry people like a gathered mob that was attacking the ICE agents. No, I watched the ICE agents get out of their car.
Oh goodness,
and
you're
walk
so
towards. I saw them walk right towards that Honda Pilot, and nobody attacked them. Nobody yelled at them. No one was calling for them to be killed.
Event.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. This was a protest.
Yeah,
they were angry people. This woman, by the way, is a very angry woman who has shown that she hates ICE agents. You don't think so? Go look at her history.
Okay.
I mean,
but that means she should have been shot? So that's it, Joe?
No,
is that when you have bad social media posts, they need to be shot?
No, just like Ashley Babbitt. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing in a weapon. You got to admit it. The vehicle is a weapon. Now, it's just like, should every person who has a gun be shot? Well, if they're running to a barricade of ICE agents with their gun out, they're going to get plugged. You know it.
Joe Arvada, appreciate the call. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
His
Joe.
line's open, 303-696-1971. Let's talk Guy Reese, folks. My wife and I have visited Guy Reese. They're all over the Denver metro area. We went to the one in Parker and had an absolutely fantastic experience. We sat down with their professional designers, and they showed us an incredible selection of Hunter Douglas custom blinds, shades, and shutters. I was a little overwhelmed at first. I've never worked with a personal designer, mostly because I didn't want to pay for it. And we always bought cheap blinds from online that broke. But it was absolutely affordable and a great experience. She walked us through everything, helped us find the perfect solution to enhance the look and functionality of our home. Like I mentioned yesterday, we've got like a 90s bathroom. So we got one of those big tubs that's on the other, and there's windows on the other side. So you got to like crawl over this awful tub. I don't even get me started on tubs. But it's so nice to have a remote-controlled blind that just goes up and down. It's amazing. So whether your curtains are clashing or you want a fresh look, Guy Reese has those solutions for you. Their designers are the experts, and they can help you with everything from window treatments to full room decor. But here's the best part. They offer a personalized in-home consultation. They'll come directly to you with samples, paint colors, all that stuff, so you can choose the best option. Get the same expert advice we got in our home and yours. Do yourself a favor. Get started today. Visit GuyReese.com to schedule your in-home consultation. That's GUIRYS.com. GUIRYS.com. Go see the great people at Guy Reese. You'll be sure to thank me. All right, let's go to Ben and Morrison. Good morning, Ben. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning, Ben. And Pete, you're up next.
Yeah, morning. Actually, Joe kind of stole what I was going to talk about, and that is, I think if you're going to be intellectually consistent, and if you're going to say that this was justified, then you have to say that the Ashley Babbitt shooting was also justified. And actually, her situation was worse than what this woman did. She was trying to flee arrest, whereas Ashley Babbitt was actively, engaging and continuing to move forward after not listening to the officers.
Do you think Ashley Babbitt had a deadly weapon?
There was a violent mob behind her, and if you knew what was going on the radios for all those officers, they were getting attacked. There was 140 officers that were injured that day. A lot of them walked away with concussions, were hospitalized, and that officer was defending an area where they were evacuating members of Congress. That was what was going on behind him. And I do think, for example, if that mob had gotten to someone high profile like Nancy Pelosi, she would have been killed that day.
Yeah, I disagree because I in this case with ICE, you have a police officer that gets hit by the car, like the video shows him. He gets struck by the car, and with Ashley, if he didn't step on the gas,
if he didn't draw his gun and actually just tried to move out of the way, he wasted some time pulling his gun. He just got a little love tap, and imagine what he could have done with another half second.
Okay, but with regards to Ashley Babbitt, did she have anything in her hands that was a direct threat? Was that officer in imminent danger?
Yes, they had just broken through. He was the last line of defense. And if she opens that door, it lets the mob through, which is a violent mob.
Do you think her shooting was justified?
In that situation, yes, much more so than this. Because that officer was defending members of Congress that were being evacuated from a violent mob.
And this woman with a car, not violent?
She wasn't. She was trying to evade arrest, which is a different crime.
And hit a cop?
Again,
that
wasn't the intent.
That cop was hit.
That wasn't the intent.
Well, that doesn't.
He put himself in that situation.
You think that cop's expected in that situation to go, well, she hit me with the car, but that was not her intent. We'll just let her go. How is he supposed to know that? How is he supposed to know that?
I think that cop's poorly trained, because if you're standing in front of a vehicle, one, I can always tell in a parking lot if someone's turning their wheel. You hear it, you can see it, and if you're not paying attention to the car, if you're looking at the driver, which is maybe what you can justify, you can see their hands spinning a wheel if they're doing a sharp turn like she was doing. Like, it's very evident that she was trying to turn and avoid that.
And if you're close enough to the car that you can't see the direction of the wheels, you've placed yourself in a bad position to judge the situation. This is a question of judgment.
Does he deserve to be prosecuted, Ben?
I think he needs to be reprimanded at some point. He's probably not going to be prosecuted for murder or anything like that. But I think these people are poorly trained, incompetent, and that's why we keep having issues with ICE members where they're arresting people that are U.S. citizens. There's a lot of lawsuits that are going on against them.
Who have they arrested that's a U.S. citizen?
There's 170 arrests that have happened. There's an article in ProPublica. I suggest you read it. It sources everything. You can look at videos of people that were injured.
So were they detained so they were arrested? Were they let go? Were they prosecuted?
Most of them were released within 24 hours. Some were not. There's, for example, some children that have been held over 2 weeks because their parents were illegal. They were not provided attorneys, any public defenders.
What do you think? Those kids should be left out on the streets without parents?
No, I think that's when you call public defenders in and get lawyers in that can better assist that situation rather than, just put them in jail. You get someone to act on their behalf.
Do you think that woman should have been?
Which they were not provided.
Ben, do you think that woman should have been in that situation yesterday?
I don't think so, no. But I don't think she deserved to get shot. I think that officer was poorly trained and very incompetent with his actions.
All right, Ben Morrison, appreciate the call. Thanks for sticking around. Ben's line will be open 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law Text line at 720-819-5115. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Phone lines hot, text messages hot as we discuss the ICE shooting that took place in Minnesota. A 37-year-old woman from Colorado. Was it justified? A righteous shooting as the ICE officer sought to protect his life? He was hit by the car? Or was it murder of an innocent woman trying to flee a situation? Let's go to the text lines. Jason in Denver. Body cams will be helpful. We'll be able to hear the conversation the ICE officers had before exiting their vehicles to run over to the woman's car. We'll know their intentions and what the threat level was. Jason in Denver. I think that's a really good point. I think it seems like there was activity in the run-up to this. You had witnesses talking about her intent to disrupt the law enforcement operation. And was there additional times that she intervened and blocked the cars and then drove on forward? Was this the fifth situation, for instance, of her blocking cars, or was it the first?
Yeah.
I think that will change things.
And in the witness that we had earlier that you played, and we've got a longer clip as well, the person says that their impression was that ICE wanted her to leave. What we see on that video is indications of her leaving. Contrary to what the Trump administration point out, she didn't weaponize her car and drive towards or into the officers. Originally, the story was that she rammed her car into the officers, into another vehicle. None of that was true. And if you look at what she was doing, if they're telling her to leave, you have to give her the opportunity to leave. If you want her to get out of the situation, like that witness was saying, you don't go and stand in front of her car. And the last thing you do is shoot her. You have her license plate. You have her car. She has very identifiable bumper stickers. She's probably in the community. It's not that hard to track her down afterwards.
I just disagree. The idea that she was just some innocent woman out there that, oh my goodness, she got caught up in stuff. She was deliberately interfering. She's been pumped up and primed by these Democrat lawmakers that are telling folks in their communities to go and interrupt lawful legal operations. It's just, it's crazy. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Pete in Lake Monument. Good morning, Pete. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, morning, Pete. How are you?
Good morning, gentlemen. Hey, I've been a police officer for nearly 30 years, and I think the aspect we're missing here is that over the last 10 years of my career, there's been a concerted effort for people to interject themselves in legal and lawful law enforcement actions. And that's what we have here now. We have these law enforcement auditors and these protesters that are actively encouraged, paid, or whatever, to interject themselves to actively obstruct, interfere, and resist legal and lawful police actions. And when that happens, bad things happen. Everyone on here that is talking uses the word intent. Well, the word intent is something that can't be derived right now in this situation because what we're trying to do is read someone's mind. Well, this lady actively put herself in a situation to at least interfere with a legal and lawful law enforcement objective, and now we're supposed to read her intent? Well, as an officer, if you're going to do that, my belief is that your intent is to do whatever you want to do to prevent me from doing my legal and lawful duty. And that has to be recognized. We need to change legislation in this country and start throwing people in jail for when they're doing these things. I don't have the ability.
I got a question for that, though.
Sure.
When we're talking about this, about the idea of them disrupting the protest disrupting lawful actions and people disobeying and everything else you're talking about, is the proper solution to that shooting them?
Well, here's what I would say is statutorily, all I have to do as a police officer is articulate that I believe that my life or someone else's life was in imminent danger or of serious bodily injury and or death. A vehicle being driven by someone who is interjecting themselves and is refusing to cooperate with police, then I can assert that their intent at that point is to harm me.
How can you infer that their intent is to harm you? Right now, the only thing
How about
that you know.
gave her?
Wait, hang on a
what
sec,
it
Pete.
looked
Pete,
like
wait,
to
let
me,
me finish.
Bill.
Wait, hang on a sec, Pete. Let me finish the question. So far, all you have is disobeying what you're telling her to do. How are you getting to the point? And you were talking about judging intent. How are you getting to the point where you're judging her intent?
I'll answer your question. What's the difference between a 4,000-pound vehicle that can accelerate very quickly and someone holding a gun? If I tell that person to drop the gun, how many times do I have to tell that person to drop it before I'm legally justified in shooting them?
A gun and a car. Hang on a second. Guns and cars are not analogous because they're used in different manners.
Yeah, they are. They're both deadly weapons in this situation.
No, they're not both deadly weapons because we leave work and leave our houses every day and get into cars. So I understand they can be, but they are by definition different. A car can be deadly, but again, it's trajectory, speed. There's a lot of physics involved. The trajectory and speed, based on where she was at that time, doesn't necessarily make it a deadly weapon. She could have bumped into the officer. He could have fallen down because of the snow, and she could have run him over, but the officer also placed himself in front of it. And one of the questions you have, and you have dealt with this, when someone draws a firearm and points it, how often do you want to jump in front of that barrel? And that's what the officer did. If you're saying the car was a deadly weapon at that time, she was not pointing that deadly weapon at any officers when they approached her.
Why is she there?
He stood in front of her.
Hold on. She drives. Hold on. Let me ask you a couple.
Yeah.
Why is she driving into the situation, and then you have an officer that actively goes, and it looks or it appears, and we still got to figure this out, that it appears that he may try to turn her engine off. He reaches actually into the cockpit of the car, correct?
Yes, he does. Yep.
Okay, so then she speeds away at that point, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there you go, Bill. Now let's take that and let's dissect that.
Yes.
You have an officer that is definitely giving her legal and lawful orders, correct?
Yes.
He then does not comply with those legal and and accelerates. Now that officer, you can look and say, well, that officer never.
You left out the adjective, and we got to go. Hang on, let's see if we can bring it back. But hang on a sec. You left out that adjective used the first time of away. She was leaving. You don't get to shoot her when she's leaving.
We'll continue. You're listening to Jeff and Bill.
710 KNUS.